Hey guys, Fletch Football Observer here, and today's video is going to be a preview show. We're previewing this weekend's biggest game in English football, arguably the biggest game in this round of fixtures. It's Liverpool versus Manchester United, top of the table Liverpool against 5th place Manchester United, two of England's most successful teams going head to head. This is a game that is watched all over the world. This is a huge game in the English footballing calendar. It's one of my personal favourites. Of course, this is a rivalry built on success, and even a rivalry that's, from what I understand, built outside of football as well. And of course, now it's more of a rivalry in terms of just built on history and success. These two teams are in different worlds right now, sort of. You've got Liverpool pushing for their 19th Premier League title. You've got Manchester United, who are rebuilding and have currently got a fan base divided. They're in kind of two separate worlds right now. But of course, this is a game where rivalries come together. This is the time where form goes out the window. It is essentially a cup final and anything can happen. So, like I say, this is going to be my preview on it. I'm going to have a look at a brief sort of like build up to it, and look at where both teams lie in the table. I'm going to look at a little bit from both sides of the management spectrum. I'm going to look at early team news to come out of the game, and then I'm going to look at the actual game itself, where the key battles could be won and lost. So let's first start off with a little bit of a preview to it. Liverpool, top of the table, like I mentioned, they're unbeaten this season, played 22 games, won 21 and drawn 1. And coincidentally, of course, that one draw did come against Manchester United when these two teams met earlier this season at Old Trafford. Man United, on the other hand, 5th in the table. It's really close this season. The table is entirely close. Like, a couple of wins here and there could easily catapult you up the table and make the other teams slide down completely. It's really that close outside of the top 4. But yeah, United with 9 wins, 7 draws and 6 losses. And they are 5 points off of top 4. So this is a huge game for them. If they can lay down a marker here, deliver Liverpool their first loss, it will be a huge marker to where their season may lie. And obviously, Champions League is where they want to be for their fans. Whether they get there or not is another question. Now, in terms of the build up to this game, obviously I don't think this game has the appeal and draw to it that it probably used to have. I think this all comes down to, obviously, both teams are not really fighting for the title no more. You've got one team fighting for the title, the other team are not. It was like that for a while beforehand when these two roles were reversed, with United constantly going for the title, and Liverpool would be about their sort of, but they were never genuine contenders for it. And then on the odd season that they would be, it had a bit more relevance to it. And obviously, this game gets blown up by the media, mainstream media. You know, you got your TalkSport, your Sky Sports, that kind of thing that properly blow it up. And if you've been seeing the trailers to promote this game on Sunday for Sky Sports, you'll know that every single season they do this. They make an incredible video package that properly hypes it up, and then it turns out to not live up to the hype, in all honesty. But you can tell that this game has been on the minds of some people for some time. I think on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mind, I think this has been coming for a long time, and I think he's wanted this game for a while. I even think that this goes back to his comments that he made a couple of weeks ago, if that, about the average age of the United squad. This obviously came about after Liverpool beat Everton 1-0 in the FA Cup. And there was a lot made about how Liverpool's 11 was of an average age that was very young in comparison to Everton's experienced, pretty much full-strength squad. Soulshock came out, and he just seemed, for no apparent reason, it wasn't like people were like jabbing at him and stuff and like mocking him for that kind of thing. He just randomly came out of nowhere and basically just said, well, everyone makes out that this Liverpool 11 has an average age of this much, but if you look at it, our average age of our squad for the entire season has been a year lower. And I'm like, well, that came out of left field. What's that got to do with anything? And that's what got me thinking, like, this is the game that he's been looking for for a few weeks now. This is the game that he's wanted to have to try and lay down a marker. Obviously, Liverpool are a marked team. Every manager that comes up against Liverpool now wants to be known as that manager that ended Liverpool's hopes of having an invincible season. Whether they can derail their title chances is another matter, but everyone now wants to be that manager to derail Liverpool's invincible season. And if Soulshock got it, Soulshock is going to be pretty much, you think, untouchable, because the way the Man United board are and some of the stories that I've heard about them, they will actually see it as, well, it hasn't been a great season, performances on the pitch haven't been great, the team's been pretty poor, but look, he got the win over arguably the best team in England and the champions of the world, so yeah, he has to be given whatever he wants. So it does seem to me that has been the case for some time with Solskjaer. He's wanted this game more than anything, and it's just basically to shut up critics, especially when you consider that he's been arguing with Robin van Persie over the past couple of weeks and came up with some really strange comments in his press conference about how he will take nothing away from him other than the shirt. So, make of that what you will. Now, going into the early team news, and of course, for Manchester United, there is no Pogba, there's no McTominay, and to make matters, could make matters slightly worse, Marcus Rashford did come off injured after coming on as a substitute on Wednesday night in their FA Cup game against Wolves. Now, it's allegedly a back injury, probably from having to carry Manchester United on his back throughout this entire season. No, in all seriousness, apparently it is a back injury. Apparently he fell awkward on it in that game and had to come off for, I think, Jesse Lingard, which is basically like playing with 10 players. I'm sorry, I'll stop with the terrible jokes. I'm really sorry. But yeah, I don't know whether to believe the Rashford thing. I mean, I remember earlier this season when we last played them, everyone was making out like David De Gea and Rashford were both not playing in the Liverpool game, and because of injuries during that international break and stuff. And then, surprise, surprise, who lines up in goal but David De Gea, and who lines up up front? Marcus Rashford. Who scores the goal to put United ahead? Oh, Rashford. So, I don't know whether to make of these kind of things, because they'll say one thing and then something else will happen that will completely contradict it. So take that with a pinch of salt what you will. This could just be media fueling the Rashford is definitely injured agenda. But they are definitely going to be without Pogba and McTominay, and that is a big midfield hole that I think Liverpool probably could exploit, although, of course, it's not a foregone conclusion. The overall consensus is that Liverpool will absolutely wipe the floor with this team. It was a general consensus last time out against United at Old Trafford, and Liverpool didn't really turn up for that game, and United were kind of close to picking up a point if Liverpool hadn't have woke up in the last 20 minutes or so. But of course, this is at Anfield. So at Anfield, Liverpool are unbeaten. God, it's mental to think how they've gone unbeaten. And of course, in the league, they're unbeaten in over a year. It's actually a phenomenal feat to achieve. And I'll get onto my predictions of that in a minute. But it's going to be a hard game for these United players, because they're going to have to do a lot of running around. They're going to have the crowd completely against them. It's going to be difficult for this young side, I believe, to... It's going to be a test of character to see if they can handle this occasion in a very hostile atmosphere. But, of course, like I say, no Pogba, no McTominay. They've had to deal with that for a while, but I don't think they've ever walked into a hostile environment like this in a while. For Liverpool, the injury list looks to be slowly clearing up for them. The likes of Fabinho, Lovren, Matip, they're all expected to be back in the squad for sometime within the next week or so. They could even make the bench for this game. I don't expect none of them to start. I expect it to be pretty much the same starting 11 that you usually associate Liverpool with. I think the only real position that is up for debate is in midfield, where you kind of go, well, Henderson and Wijnaldum are pretty much set to start, but the third midfielder, it could be this guy, it could be that guy. It could be Adam Lallana, and I think it might be Adam Lallana. It could be Oxlade-Chamberlain if he really wanted to go in attack, or he could throw a complete wild card in there and go for Shaqiri, which honestly I wouldn't be completely against, but I think I'm leaning more towards Lallana for this game. With just everything that is considered for this game. So I think Lallana probably will be the third midfielder. Apart from that, the team pretty much picks itself. Alisson in goal, Trent at right back, Robertson left back, Van Dijk and Gomez at the heart of the defence, Henderson, Wijnaldum and Lallana, as I previously mentioned, and then up front, obviously, Salah right, Mane left, Firmino in the centre, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they rotated that a little bit to just see how things go. Whether Salah goes up front, Mane comes out to the right, and Firmino on the left, or something along them lines to really just draw it out. Still no start for Minamino, but I would expect to see him come off the bench depending on how things go. Now that's team news. As far as the way the game is going to pan out, I think it's pretty much, we can all pretty much guess how it's going to go. Liverpool will dominate possession. Liverpool will look to get the crowd on their side and look to keep up the fast tempo to sort of suffocate United. And obviously as the game goes by, they sort of now mentally and physically tire teams, and it's like a slow, painful like suffering that they try and put the opposition under. And that's, again, more of what we're going to see. Is pretty much straightforward with a mixture of ways to attack. For United, again, it's pretty much predictable in the way that against the bigger teams this season, they've pulled out some great results, and against the quote-unquote lesser teams, they've struggled to break down a stubborn and resolute defence. And again, big team in Liverpool, so they're just going to try and hit them on the counter-attack. They're going to rely on Rashford if he's playing. They're going to rely on Martial. They're going to rely on Dan James, maybe even Greenwood, to use their pace, use their power, their pace, just to break down the defence, just to catch the fullbacks in particular off guard, and just attempt to completely rattle the Liverpool defence, because it is there to be got at. There's no doubt about it. Even Liverpool fans would say the defence isn't entirely stable, especially when we've been attacking for so long. And against that pace, it could be under fire, but it's whether or not Van Dijk and Gomez can easily snuff out the danger as quickly as possible and then get Liverpool back on the attack. But we all know that that's how United will play, especially at Anfield. They're going to sit deep. They're going to look to try and counter and counter and counter. And they're going to look to try and nick something on the break. That's just how it will be. For Liverpool, it's going to be about the fullbacks. The fullbacks are going to be essential. There's no point trying to swing crosses in, because we all know that Lindelof and Maguire will easily deal with it. It's going to be very unlikely that either of our front three are going to win a header against those two. So it's just about playing in crosses towards the back post area, drilling in crosses and making it difficult for the likes of Maguire and Lindelof to sort of be composed and concentrated enough to deal with that. Going to be very interesting to see how these two teams properly line up, and whether or not Liverpool can use their fullbacks to their advantage whilst having their midfield work very hard to continue to go back and forth, whilst of course the front three need to be on form. Salah needs to be needs to be on it. He needs to have his shooting boots tied up tight, and Mane needs to absolutely tear Wan-Bissaka apart, and obviously Firmino needs to be as creative and as up for it as anyone else, because he is essential. Key battles across the pitch, you're looking at Salah versus Brandon Williams. Young Brandon Williams, of course, probably is going up against his toughest opponent yet in Salah. I think I'm right in saying that Williams is actually right-footed, so that could actually benefit him in the long run. We all know that Salah basically loves to cut inside on his left and try and get a shot off that way. But it's going to be interesting to see how they line up, because if Salah does go against Williams, it'll be interesting to see how that battle plays out. But if they decide that Salah to go up front and Mane to come out on the right, it'll be interesting to see how that pace matches up. On the other side, like I say, Mane versus Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka, very good tackler of the ball. Mane, very good, tricky winger. Probably one of the Premier League's best right now. It's going to be interesting to see how that lines up. But again, that just goes on how the forward three line up. At the other end, you've got Van Dijk versus Martial. Can't imagine Martial is going to win too many aerial battles. But with his pace and his movement, if he's smart enough, he can definitely get past either him or Gomez, and I would imagine that he would try and isolate Gomez as the weaker of the two, but that's not saying much considering how incredible Gomez has been since capitalising on the injuries to both Lovren and Matip to go alongside Van Dijk as his centre-back partner. Another key battle is going to be Trent versus Rashford or James. Now, depending on which way that these two line up, it's going to be Rashford or James against Trent, obviously, depending on if Rashford is fit enough to play, which I'm going to assume he is going to be, because that's just how things go nowadays. It's going to... And I always go back to the game a few years ago where United beat Liverpool 2-1, and both goals came from Rashford tearing Trent apart. It is possible to get at Trent. He's getting better at defensively. He's still not amazing, but because obviously his main forte is going forward. But he is getting better defensively, and he just needs to work on his positioning. And obviously, being 20, 21 years of age, it's going to come in time. But that's where I think the main weak link is for Liverpool, and that's where I think United will look to exploit mainly. Obviously, on the other side, you've got Robertson, but I think Robertson is a bit more defensively better than Trent. So Rashford or James against Trent will be another key battle, and I think that is where United will look to aim most of their attacks for. So it will be interesting. There are some definitely key battles, and there are some definite key tactics that need to be worked out, and on how to probably I can't even speak now, man. How to definitely, I'll go with definitely, hurt the opposition. So this should be a good game. I don't imagine it's going to live up to the hype that maybe Sky Sports and that lot are probably talking it up to be, but I still would imagine that this is going to be a very good game. My prediction is that Liverpool will come out victorious. I honestly think that Liverpool will win this game. I think it's at Anfield. Their mentality at Anfield is something that is almost inhuman. It's incredible that this team will go into any game and come out with the mentality that they do and wanting to improve. You know, this team are unbeaten this season. This team have gone 22 games without losing. They've won 21, they've drawn 1, and each time they come off the pitch, they always say the same thing. They always say, we can do more, we can improve, we can do more. And I love that mentality and that character about them. It's just incredible. For United, I think from their point of view is, and I'm not like going to cancel them out completely. There is a chance that they may be able to steal a point, or depending on if Liverpool's shooting boots aren't on, they easily could go down the other end and steal it very late on in a 1-0 win. I just don't see them winning this game. I genuinely don't. Not at Anfield, and not against this Liverpool side, who right now are just dispatching teams at will, even if they're not playing that well. So I just don't see it happening. Like I say, I'm going with a Liverpool 3-1 victory, and yeah, they keep up their unbeaten season. They remain top of the table by the points margin that Manchester City have given them, and who knows, maybe it could be an even more better weekend for them in the fact that City may drop even more points. They are facing Crystal Palace. It's not a very easy team to play against, but even though that should really have a City win on written all over it, who knows. But that's been this preview for the Liverpool versus Manchester United game. That wraps it up for this video. Guys, if you have any thoughts, comments, opinions or predictions of your own for this game, I'd love to read them in the comments section below. It would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things would be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch the Football Observer. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.